On May 21st, 2024, Pusu, the music producer of a popular music unit called Tuyu, got arrested for the attempted murder of his girlfriend. Usually that would be the end of the story, but what made Pusu the most controversial, instead of the most felonious music producer in Japan, was the aftermath that sparked debates within the online community. To fully understand why Pusu wasn't simply written off as a criminal or bad person, I want to start by introducing his backstory. But I won't be spending too much time on Tuyu, since I've already made a more thorough introduction to the group, and Pusu's time as their producer and guitarist in the previous video. I do, however, strongly recommend you check out that video first, because it will provide more context around the whole controversy. Now that I've got that out of the way, without further ado, let's get started. Although Pusu started off his career as a Vocaloid producer, unlike many of his peers, it wasn't Vocaloid that piqued his interest in music, but the acoustic guitar that his high school teacher introduced him to. It was also around that time when the anime K-On! Was at its peak, and that's when Pusu truly became captivated by playing guitar. He began teaching himself by watching videos on Nico Nico, and as his skills grew, he started composing his own music. One day, as he was browsing through Nico Nico, he stumbled across a video by the legendary Vocaloid producer, Kemu, which introduced him to a whole new landscape of possibilities and changed his life forever. In 2012, Pusu made his Vocaloid producer debut under the name of Pusu, and instantly turned many heads. Since then, he changed his name to the easier to pronounce Pusu, and established himself as a respectable producer, with 2 solo albums, and was part of 2 music units, where both ended due to Pusu's self-centered mannerism. Yeah, Pusu may be an incredibly talented musician, but his eccentric behaviors are well documented throughout his career. But at the same time, what makes his songs, especially during the Tuyu era, so authentic and relatable, might also be credited to his lack of filter. During the 2010s, Vocaloid producers who switched to making mainstream J-pop music were finding success on an increasing level due to the widespread popularity of streaming services. So, when Nabana, one of the most popular Vocaloid producers, and Pusu's biggest inspiration, decided to form Yorushika, and became one of the biggest J-pop artists even to this day, it prompted Pusu to follow in Nabana's footsteps and formed his own music unit, Tuyu, in 2019. The rest is pretty much all in the story of Tuyu video, but let me just sum it up real quick. Tuyu soon gained online popularity after their debut, thanks to their relatable songs that often consist of messages about struggles and mental illness, most of which are based on Pusu's own experience, as he has a long history of mental disorders. By 2024, Tuyu's YouTube channel has over 1 million subscribers and amassed a combined 400 million views. So it's safe to say that they were a music unit on the ascent. Not to mention that they've barely knocked on the mainstream audience's door, having refused to sign with the label until 2022. But internally, everything started going downhill in late 2023 when Pusu went through a creative slump and decided that the only solution was disbanding Tuyu. For him, music has always been a way of dealing with his inner struggles. But now that he's enjoying success, fame, and money, the things that motivated him for the past decade are suddenly gone. So in order to create a situation where his back is truly against the wall, he announced the end of Tuyu. If the strategy works, he can renounce it and continue their activity. If it doesn't, well, since Pusu is responsible for all of Tuyu's songs, they might as well end. And guess what? It did work. On what was supposed to be the show that concludes their activity, Pusu announced they are back in business. For fans, that's obviously great news, and they can just laugh off the whole scare. But for the other members and staff, who could go jobless because of Pusu, he never bothered to discuss or notify them about such a reckless decision. Sure, Tuyu's success is heavily based on Pusu's musical genius, but the fact that his solution was to torment himself, and unknowingly others around him, was deeply alarming. He might have a track record of self-centered behaviors, but never so extreme in this fashion. And that brings us to May 31st, 2024. When Pusu was arrested for the attempted murder of his girlfriend. According to Pusu himself, he was experiencing auditory hallucinations and paranoid delusions caused by idiopathic dystonia and acute transient psychotic disorder. As a result, he was convinced that his girlfriend was attacking him, so he stabbed her in the chest with a kitchen knife. Afterward, he aimed the knife towards his chest, determined to end things once and for all. But just as the tip of the knife touched his chest, his survival instinct kicked in and helped him regain control. He then instantly called emergency services, which saved his girlfriend. On August 30th, Pusu was released without any charges, as his girlfriend, who still lives with him to this day, refused to press charges against him. He was also kept in an asylum for 2 months. where the prosecutor and psychiatrist investigated in the legitimacy of his claims. Eventually, they came to the conclusion that Pusu was innocent due to his state of mental incapacity during the incident. That ignited an online discussion about whether he got away with attempted murder due to claims of mental disorder. Now, I will admit that when I see news where lawyers are defending their felonious clients, claiming they were under the influence of mental disorder when committing a crime, I am often skeptical, because it is a very convenient excuse, and if they're lying, it's an insult to those actually suffering. But in this case, I do believe in Pusu. First of all, he spent 2 months in the asylum underdiagnosed, which validated his words. Second, if you don't believe in the authorities, that's fine, but his girlfriend, even after such a horrifying experience, still decided to stick by his side. Third, his claims didn't come out of nowhere. Pusu has a long history of mental illness, which is evidenced by his discography. Lastly, the person who's probably the most affected by the incident, tuyu's vocalist, Lei, has said that she doesn't hate Pusu. He discovered her on Twitter and allowed her to become one of the more popular vocals in J-pop. While his actions did cost their livelihood temporarily, her ability as a singer is already well established and will serve as a solid platform for the solo project coming soon. I think when the person who lost the most out of this incident, besides obviously Pusu and his girlfriend, decided that she had made peace with him, it just showed how much trust she had in his innocence. There's no conclusion to this debate, because ultimately, he is legally innocent, and for those who disagree, there's not much they can do about it. That brings us to the biggest debate. Are tuyu's songs innocent? And should Pusu remove them from streaming? Even though Pusu is legally innocent, it doesn't take away the fact that he almost killed someone, and his public image is forever tarnished. So many people believe that even his discography should be cancelled alongside his career. Personally, I think there's no correct answer to whether the songs are innocent or not. If they plant a horrifying image into your brain when you listen to them, then you have every right to think they're not and stop listening. And if Pusu's personal life doesn't affect how the songs originally make you feel, then again, you should have every right to keep listening without being judged. However, regardless of how I feel about Pusu's innocence, tuyu's discography should never be removed. When tuyu released those songs, they were no longer just Pusu's songs, but every person who worked on them, and every listener who made them their own. Also, considering how the songs basically reflect Pusu's struggles throughout his life, they should be preserved as a reminder of the horrible things that could happen when mental disorders are left unchecked. Fortunately, even though Pusu was on the precipice of removing all of tuyu's songs due to online pressure, thanks to a last-minute poll, 80% of the silent majority who shared my values convinced him to leave the songs as they are. Afterward, the controversy surrounding Pusu slowly died down, as a huge proportion of those who questioned his innocence and demanded the songs to be removed were never fans of tuyu in the first place. At the end of the day, Pusu may have got a second chance in life, but there's still much to deal with internally. Both his mental health and personality were major factors that led to his breakdown. And I sincerely hope he gets whatever help he needs. And for the fans who still resent him for tuyu's demise, even if the tragedy never happened, based on how money and fame affected Pusu, it is pretty likely that he would eventually find other ways, intentionally or not, to jeopardize his and others' careers. Perhaps mainstream popularity was never meant for tuyu. To conclude, although Pusu's music brought peace and joy to millions of people who are facing their own struggles, his neglect of his own mental health eventually led to his downfall. So for those going through similar struggles, please find help, for yourself and the people you care about. This has been Cushion. See you next time.